Hi there, it's Richard from the OPA Hub website with a little video on the updates to the template code generator. We've introduced the entity container, and for my demo I'm going to be using this project, which is a generic project including an entity with two attributes, and I have included a screen, and the screen uses the standard entity container. And I've added a label, and in the label I have placed substitution codes for the two attributes that I just mentioned. So this is my project. And in case you're wondering, in this case, rather than manually enter a load of data, I've simply created an Excel spreadsheet, and in the Excel spreadsheet I infer all of the data. So I've got 13 or 14 rows of data. So if you're wondering where the data comes from, that's where it is. Of course, it could be manually entered in another screen. So I'm going to go to the template generator, and let's fire up the template generator, and it gives me an opportunity to show you the new steps. So I'm going to go to choose the entity container and say yes and move forward. I need to provide, as always, a custom property which I will use to identify the container. So I'm going to go here and say there's a custom property called name, and my name is xEntity, and I'm going to use that here and say name xEntity. I like logging, so I'm going to say yes and move on. So now these options, it says what is the HTML element. So this is all going to be written out in HTML, so how can I find it if I look on the page? And then it asks me about my attributes. It asks me for two attributes. So I'm going to use the two names. This is the first attribute. This is the second one. If I can get the name right. And the first one, I think, was a text attribute, and the second one was a number. Obviously, once you've generated the code, you can add more, but the wizard just takes you through adding two. And finally, what is the width you would like of these two columns in pixels in your new entity container? And next, and refresh that again, and here is our code. Oh, let's go back again. There we go. I get in color. So this code is now ready to go. I noticed here it says you do need jQuery and you need JS Grid, so I'm assuming that you've downloaded those and popped them in your resources folder. And I also noticed that the elements that I asked for in the screen have been added, like the name here, and you'll also see a reference to various other things, including one extra custom property. So we're going to have to go back to our original project and add a second custom property to the entity container, which is called entity name, so that we can identify the entity name. This is useful if you have multiple entities on the page, and this is just the name of the entity. So I can copy and paste the code and save it in the right folder. And I'll close this down now so I can copy and paste. There we go, copy and paste. And I put it in the right place. There we go, paste and save. So this is going into the resources folder of the entity, generic entity project that I just showed you. Here we are. So I'm now going to go run, and we'll notice, let's open it in a browser, and I'll explain why. And here we go, let's open it in a browser. There we go, and here's my new entity container with my scroll bar and with my pagination. I'm able to go up and down. Notice how one column is much wider than the other. These were the widths that I just gave. The reason I like testing this in a browser is because it gives me the opportunity to check that the file has been downloaded. Is it there? Here we go. Yep, there it is. There's my custom file. It was downloaded. Of course, if there's a problem, I can put a breakpoint and do all the usual JavaScript debugging, which is super. Of course, I can edit the widths. I can add more columns if I wish. Just follow the steps. It's not that hard once you've seen how the file works. The reason I always test these in a browser, not in the debugger, is that the embedded Internet Explorer browser doesn't like the remove statement that I have down here. So often when you test it in the debugger, when you try and move to the next page, you get an error, or when you try and refresh the page, you get an error. Okay, and that's just about it for today. I hope you enjoy using the new version of the template generator. If you have any special requests, go ahead. Notice that I've added also the ability to download a copy as a PDF. The advantage of the PDF is it comes with a bunch of instructions. And okay, it's a raw dump of your file, but at least you can just copy and paste that out of your PDF if you ever lose it, if you ever lose the original code, and it gives you some instructions about what you should be doing and what you should be seeing. This file is also useful if you just want to understand how this whole template generator works. That's it for today. I hope you are well, and I will see you all again soon on the OPA Hub website.